Hi everyone. Often you ask yourself, which phone should I currently get? Which is the best for me? And simply put, there isn't a simple answer to that. You have so many phones out there at different price ranges that makes it hard to just say that is the phone you should get, not to mention preferences. However, if you ask me what phone should I get for around 200 euros, I'd probably advise you to look at the Poco X3, because this honestly offers a lot for the price. Let's dive into the review about the Poco X3.
So, what makes me say this? Could it be because of the stereo speakers? Could it be because of the 120Hz display? Could it be because of the camera performance for the price? Could it be battery life? Could it be fast charging? Or could it even be something as simple as having a nice headphone jack with the phone itself? Well, the answer to all of that is simply yes to all. Now, of course, you are still dealing with a phone that is on a budget, and yeah, there are some cuts. And you might wonder what they are to get this price itself for these features. Well, for one, the back is made out of plastic, where the front is made out of Gorilla Glass 3. You have some ads on the phone, but in turn, you can put them off pretty simply. And you have a vibration motor that doesn't feel as nice. And of course, you have two sensors on the phone that I simply would never use, because the result itself isn't that good to really make a difference, meaning the macro and depth sensor. But in turn, you get some extras that some other high-end phones simply don't offer, like a headphone jack and well, a charger in a box that other phone brand simply doesn't give you for a far higher price. And it's even charging at 33 watts. But there is of course more to a phone than numbers, than hardware, than some things that are named. And that's something like software, the gateway to a phone. And of course, because of that, this can make or break a phone. Something that you may or may not like at all. And of course, the Poco X3 comes with their own skin on top of this phone. Now, while myself, I'm not the biggest fan of the skin itself, it just doesn't feel as smooth as some other skins out there. I honestly had zero issues with it. So it isn't something where I feel like this phone is held back by the software itself. And then of course we do have to say that this isn't the smallest phone out there. The display is 6.67 inches tall with a surprisingly small bezel for this price range. Which well does make it a larger phone, even more so because of the bulk itself. But that bulk of course has a reason, and that is mainly because of the huge battery put inside. This phone comes with a 5160 mAh battery. I can easily get 7 hours of screen on time and sometimes 8, depending of course on the usage. But let's go back to that display for a bit, because again I feel like this is a solid job by Poco. While the display wouldn't be considered good on a flagship, this simply isn't a flagship. And while I can tell you that in my day-to-day use I really have no issues with it, because the display does get bright enough and dim enough, it does have one weakness, and that is mainly movie content or video content itself. This isn't an AMOLED display, meaning blacks aren't really black, they are more like a grey color, and viewing angles aren't that great either. But again, I go back, bang for its buck. I would say this simply offers that, even in the display department. And it helps that the display is a 120Hz display that makes animation smoother than it would normally be. Though with that being said, with a screen size this big and not the fastest chip out there, I still think it could be smoother of course. And then we get to the cameras. Now these days in daytime you honestly won't really have issues with a phone around this price. The camera performs pretty solid and the only thing that can really hamper a phone around this price is dynamic range, and here it is somewhat the same. The dynamic range isn't the greatest out there, but not bad by any means. You can sometimes do see some lens flare, but it performs pretty solid nonetheless. However, processing of pictures again is somewhat that comes down to preference, so I will let you judge that for yourself if you enjoy the shots coming out of this camera or not. If I, however, have something to tell you, is that the wide angle isn't that solid. You can tell it's struggling a lot more. The contrast is up quite a lot and it's just not as pleasing to look at. So there is plenty of difference between the main sensor on how it produces those images and the wide angle. And then of course we also have a macro. I will show you the result of it, but it's not anything to write home about, with it only being a 2 megapixel shot. The main thing is, it's just useless when the light isn't soft. It turns out too contrasty and the shot itself is also of low resolution, so it really doesn't help. And then of course we have one more sensor, and that is the selfie camera, which is a punch hole on this display. It's a pretty large 20 megapixel sensor with plenty of detail and it performs decently well. Now you would assume, okay, well, daytime shots are nice, but how about low light? It's only 200 euros, it probably won't perform that well. Well, I can tell you that you are somewhat wrong. While again it isn't close to a flagship, it does do so much better than other phones I have tested around this price and even above it. It takes shots that are really usable, though again, with that being said, you can see that it loses some detail in shots like this where the bricks aren't as visible on this building. Some detail is lost there, and as well some lens flare is active on this phone. But in general, as an overall shot, this seriously does a lot better than I would expect for a phone around this price range. And then the final thing for the camera is video. This honestly does pretty decent here as well. You can go up to 4K and 30 frames per second, down to 720p and 960 frames per second for some nice slow-mo shots. Stability is decent as well, and in terms of video performance, it's alright. Here is also a small audio test as well. There's a lot of wind. Hopefully you capture some audio. It's also a good test.
So, at the end, how would I really sum up this device? Well, I can honestly tell you that if you want a device for around 200 euros, or even a little bit above it, this is one solid offering. It punches above its price. It does better than most phones around this price, if not all. At least from those that I have tested. The Poco X3 really offers a lot for the price. Yes, there are some things that come down to preferences. For instance, how it produces images, but also of course, its software. That answer, however, only lies with you. But I think if you are paying 200 euros for a phone like this, I honestly would say that this is probably one of the best, if not the best option. And a little small tip, if you get one, I will get the 64GB version, because you can always extend it via the micro SD and then get more memory via that. It works, it's simple, and why not? It saves you that little bit extra. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and of course this review about the Poco X3. Let me know what you think about the device, but also this video. Leave a comment below and of course a like if you did enjoy it. If you aren't subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get a notification when I upload a new video. Either way, have a good one and talk to you guys in the next.